How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the High Voltage Show, joining with Terrence and Christian again. All right, gents, so let's get right into it. Eastern Conference Finals. Recap of 2012. And the Heat, for their first visit since 2014, the last time the Big Three were together. Big deal. This is going to be a struggle for me because I love to be I try to be objective. I really do. But that homer in me, he's just, I'm like the wolf man. You know, as soon as that, the full moon comes out, it's just like, So I'm going to try to be as objective as possible. And Terrence, I guess you're going to kind of be like the voice of reason here.
Yeah.
Christian's very good at being objective. I struggle.
That will go by the board if the finals matchup that people are clamoring about happens, by the way. But we'll see.
We'll see.
Not even worried about that yet.
No, I'm worried about plenty of other things. And that's I'm kind of like a little kid that way. When I'm scared, I talk a lot of shit. I'm just hoping that my intimidation comes across, because if they see through that smoke screen, I'm really just a dog with its tail in between its legs. All right, so Heat Celtics. No one saw this one coming to start the year. I'm not gonna pretend like I did. Christian, you didn't. Terrence, you didn't. No one saw this. Let's talk a little bit briefly about what came before. Celtics Raptors was a hell of a series. You can make the argument that it shouldn't have gone the distance that it did, because the Raptors.
Oh! There's no argument. It should not have gone 7.
Okay, you know what? It shouldn't have gone 7. It shouldn't have gone 7. It took a miracle .53 point shooter. Let me take that again, guys. Sorry. Took a miracle 0.5 second 3-point shot from Anunoby to get that Game 3 win, and it took a Game 6 of 6s from Kyle Lowry to push it to Game 7.
Yeah. Hey, how are you going to disrespect Tony Brothers like that?
I just did.
He contributed to Game 6.
All right, he contributed, but let's be real. We're talking about leadership.
Lowry had it.
When the Raptors needed a leader,
he went and did his thing.
He went and did his thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he was stellar, stunning. So, biggest takeaways from that series. Christian, I'll let you go first, since you are, in fact, the Celtics fan here.
Well, biggest takeaway from that series, honestly, is I'm not going to live past the age of 60, because the number that did on my heart is, I don't even want to talk about it. I think the biggest takeaway from that was that the Celtics' versatility really is their strongest card to play, because as Brad Stevens said after the series, they threw absolutely every defensive scheme they possibly could have at us. We saw everything. Nick Nurse emptied the whole chamber through the kitchen sink, whatever metaphor you want to use. They threw it at the Celtics, and the Celtics were still able to execute. They ultimately won Game 7 with their defense, but the fact that the Celtics were able to adjust, they saw everything. They saw triangle and 2. They saw box and 1. They saw a full court 2-2-1 press. They saw just a regular 2-3 zone at one point. The Raptors hit them with everything, and the Celtics, who, while a lot of them are young, they have a lot of mileage on them, and that coolness under pressure allowed them to navigate that, and that was a really, really big thing. The other big takeaways are Jason Tatum is right on the edge now of superstar. I can't quite say it yet. He's got to collect an Eastern Conference Finals scalp. He's got to get to the finals. But he's right on the edge. The way he played in Game 7 was a superstar-level performance. He was the best player on the court, and he had to be. And the last one is that I protect Marcus Smart at all costs. I will scream at him when he takes bad threes and bricks them, but he is a winning defensive player.
Yeah.
He wins games with his defense. And there are very few players in the NBA now, not that many players in NBA history, who can say that they win playoff games with their defense.
100%, Terrence. We didn't really hear from you too much during the series. What were your thoughts?
Series was nuts. A lot of it I just was gassed. Like, I was glad that I don't have a dog in this fight, because I would have also taken years off of my life if I would have cared about either of those teams. You guys know, I mean, I picked Boston as they've been my other finals pick aside from the Clippers, which whoops. I like this team a lot from top to bottom. They're young, but what I saw for them was that I didn't realize that their defense was as tight as it is. Siakam just was gone. Like he disappeared throughout most of that series. And I always loved Marcus Smart. He's got that dog, that grit in him. And I think having him, even though he's not the leader of the team, but having him be there to kind of, because the rest of the team, they're not passive, but they don't have that. But to have him have that, he brings everyone else along with him because they can switch to that. And I think that defined that team in that, especially that game 7. And I think that's what pushed them over. They are young, but like Christian said, this team has a lot of mileage on them because they've all kind of been through this before. So while they are still kids, they know what it takes to get to that next level. And I think that's what pushed them to that last spot.
Right.
It was an incredible series. Again, it shouldn't have gone 7. There were a couple mental errors and just straight up clutch play from Kyle Lowry from making it happen. But again, we all knew, I think, despite the talent that the Raptors have, yes, that the Celtics were in fact the more talented team. Nick Nurse, hell of a coach, but Brad Stevens is just as good, just as great, I should say. Especially at making adjustments and giving a bunch of different looks, different rotations that can throw the other guy off. And I think the biggest surprise for me in Game 6 and 7 was Kemba Walker's disappearing act, and I think that's telling of the Celtics' talent and coaching. That Christian, would you say that Kemba is their best player, their leader, No,
absolutely not.
I was just surprised. I was very surprised at the low input from him, frankly.
I'll talk to you about that because it was that was Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse put a box and one on Kemba. He deliberately decided that Kemba is the guy that we're going to take out of the game. Just like you would in football with a wide receiver, we're going to have a corner on him and we're going to put safety help over him. We're going to take him completely out of the game. It was very interesting to me that Nick Nurse and the Raptors decided that Kemba Walker was the guy that they needed to take out. Now, Kemba Walker's fabulous. I don't have a bad thing to say about the guy. He's a great guy. He's a great player. He scraps. He worked his butt off defensively in this series, which has always been, his defense has always been the thing that's most questioned about him just because of his size. But at the end of the day, the best player on the Celtics is Jason Tatum. He has been for the vast majority of this season, right before the All-Star break onward. Yeah. And he played like it in the first round against Philly. He played like it in this series as well.
Yeah, he did. That was my biggest surprise, I guess, was just how much Kemba was neutralized. I didn't see that coming.
It's a box and one. That's what it is.
Yeah. And it worked.
I think they made a conscious decision to take him out because while he is not the number one star on that player, he is the most dynamic and can go completely scoring-wise, can completely change the complexion of a game. So they're like, look, if we remove him, at least we have a better chance to be on an even par with this team if we take out this guy who could give us fits. Jason Tatum is the star. That is his team. He is the leader of that team, but I also think that he's an easier defense than Kemba if you let Kemba go off. Yeah. So that's why Nick made that decision, and it worked.
It did,
but I don't think
did work.
It's clear by the way that they still played that Kemba being on or off does not affect the way that team can operate.
Right, and that honestly is probably the biggest surprise as far as the Celtics are concerned of the series, that they can have no Gordon Hayward and get nothing out of Kemba to a large extent and still beat a team as good as the Raptors. And that ultimately comes down to their defense.
Yes. Yeah. Defense. And again, like you said, no Gordon Hayward, and they're still deep as hell. In terms of, they're just talent across the board. Whether it's Kemba, whether it's Tatum, whether it's Brown, whether it's Smart, whether it's Tice, they're a very talented team. And again, you put in a coach like Brad Stevens, the mad genius that he is. They're a very, very great. They're a great team. Cut and dry, great team. Let's move on over to South Beach for a second. So I heard all the shit talk. I heard all the naysayers. I heard all these so-called Bucks fans that were coming out of the woodwork saying that the Heat didn't have a chance, that Jimmy Butler was destined to just remain a semifinals exit for the rest of his career. You know, I heard the Heat weren't, you know, talented. I heard they didn't have the experience to overcome the Bucks. I heard all of it. Guys, what happened in that series was nothing short of cathartic. I wanted to puke after Game 4, because that is human nature, to take your foot off the gas when the best player goes out like that. And I was so freaking pissed. I wanted that sweep so bad. I wanted it so bad. But I had to hear that Chris Middleton yakety yak for the next 2 days after that. And again, not taking anything away, because when his team needed him, he stepped up and he delivered them a win when the rest of the team went ice cold. Yeah. So my takeaway is matchups matter regardless of seeding. And that for those that doubted Eric Spoelstra's coaching ability, those that say it was just LeBron or Wade and Bosh, all that stuff, no.
That is over.
It's done.
You'll never hear that again.
You'll never again. Never ever again. And again, there's been people that have kind of been won over the years in the post Big Three era. What he did in 2016. And even the year after, when they started 11-30, and then he somehow took a group of ragtags and bench warmers and took them to 30-11 and missed the playoffs by one game. I couldn't be more proud of Spo and all he's done for the Heat, because again, Riley didn't do a great job putting talent for him to work with for the last couple of years. He swung on a couple of guys, Dion Waiters, James Johnson, Hassan Whiteside. He swung big and he missed. But this year, everything seems to have come together to form a really great competitive team. And what you said about Jason Tatum kind of being on the verge of superstar, I said in one of our previous videos, I considered Jimmy Butler to be on the verge of superstar. I think he has taken the next step and kind of gone to superstar with how that willingness to take over and lead the team in more ways than scoring. Yeah. And I think that's huge, that he's willing to dish the ball out to whoever's open. Him and Gore and Dragic have done a great job of that. And I think that now that he's kind of gotten over that semifinals hump and taken his team to the Eastern Conference Finals way above what anybody expected, I think he's kind of gone to that superstar level. What, am I just being a homer, or am I accurate about that?
I don't think you're being a homer. No, I think that Jimmy Butler, especially in Game 1, really just kind of announced his presence right there. Because you're right. The things that Jimmy Butler does best is not scoring.
Yes.
You know, he brings it defensively. He rebounds well for his size. He's a terrific playmaker.
Yeah, he does the intangibles. Like, I guess Stacey Ogden used to be like the plastic man. He's a higher version of that because he can't put up points and board. But he's not a shooter. You don't expect him to do that. But he does all the dirty things. He gets steals. He throws his body around. He's getting rebounds. He's also getting his team pumped, because that's what he does. Like, he's that guy that is like the spark plug for the team. He does all the other things where when you have a team where you have Goran going off, or you have Tyler, or you have other people, they can do the scoring, he'll get that done, but he's there as the cog to kind of make the rest of it all work.
Yeah. And that's why Game 1 was so incredible, to see him just decide, yeah, I'm going to score and win this game that way, because you saw he had that other mask to put on.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, no, I'm going to be this guy today because that's what the game demands. His ability to switch roles was remarkable to see, especially against a team as good as the Bucks.
The Game 1 performance was unbelievable, because again, that's not his identity. He's not a scorer. He I'm not saying he defers, but he's willing to dish it out if he's not hitting his shots, if he's not getting into an offensive rhythm. He'll play defense and just kick it out to you. A funny story about Jimmy Butler, because I watched him on the JJ Redick podcast, and they were asking about that infamous practice when he was still on the Timberwolves. Right? When he came in there and just wanted to ruin everybody's life. And everybody talked about how Jimmy just destroyed them. And one of the things that Butler said to Redick is the most interesting thing about that practice is one that nobody reported on. And that's that I didn't shoot the ball. He was picking people's pockets. He was blocking shots. He was rebounding. He was setting screens. He was dropping dimes to the third stringers. And that was the point that he made. I don't have to shoot the ball to beat you guys. And that right there, to me, tells me personally what everything you need to know about Jimmy Butler's basketball.
He's the quintessential setup man. Like, he'll get that team in the position that they need to be, and he'll set up the team to get them in the positions they need to be. And I think he's one of the best to ever do it. It's funny because people always say, "Oh, he's not one of the top 15 players," and I agree with that. But that's only if you're basing it on scoring,
right?
But there's not there's few teams that I would not want to design, and I would not probably pick Jimmy to man that position on my team, because that guy gets a lot of things. He covers a lot of areas that one person would not be able to do in that spot.
Let me say this, just as someone whose team is about to face him, there are not 15 players in the NBA that would worry me more than Jimmy Butler if my team was about to play them. There are not.
High compliment right there.
Yeah.
But before we get into the actual matchup, because I know we're running short on time, let me just say that I'm thrilled with the way Bam has progressed throughout the whole season. But the real revelation this postseason has been Tyler Hero. And Goran Dragic has been Goran Dragic. I mean,
Dragic has been, yeah.
I mean,
didn't think he still had a fastball like that, to be perfectly honest.
No, and he was close to being gone. Riley wanted him gone when he was trying to free up the cap space to sign Jimmy, and he was going to send him to Dallas, and then Dallas at the last minute pulled the plug on it and said no.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
It would have been interesting. But it's like, thank God that didn't happen, because here's the thing. Dragic, when he was on the bench, he would provide the spark. Like when Jimmy went out, Dragic would come in and just take right on over and kind of dish it out, do whatever you needed to do. But with both of them on the court at the same time, it's really kind of amazing. And just to see them, the bromance they have is great and all that stuff, but seeing how well they work together, and I don't want to, because Jimmy is the leader of the team, but it's almost kind of like a two leaders at once kind of thing. They're kind of two minds of what to do. Like it's weird. And also, again, Tyler Hero, the revelation that he's been, nothing is too big for him as a rookie. I mean, he will take the shots. He's not scared. He'll play defense. And again, I mean, Christian, I asked you when we drafted him, because I don't watch college basketball. I asked you, I was like, do you know anything about him? And you kind of were like, yeah, well, he's kind of like a poor man's JJ Redick, this, that, and the other thing. Don't expect too much from him right away. And that was the general consensus from what I read. It's like, oh, he's a project. He's going to take time, all that stuff. Unbelievable maturation throughout the playoffs.
Astonishing. If you'd watched him last year at Kentucky, you would not have thought he was going to catch on this fast. Not nearly.
It's really unbelievable. And did you guys hear? I wasn't aware of this, but did you hear what he had to deal with in high school when he backed out of committing to University of Wisconsin? What happened? Like, I guess he was getting death threats from people, and they were TPing his house and graffitiing his house and doing all kinds of stuff. So to
have him shoot down the Bucks.
So that was just like kind of like another. That kind of like was kind of like the cherry on top. It's like, oh my God, he's balling, and he did it to his hometown team and broke their hearts. It was poetic. It was very poetic. All right, let's get into the actual matchup. Terrence, who do you got coming out of this matchup?
I've texted you guys before. I love the Heat. I love this Heat. And it's weird because again, like the other series, my finals originally was Clippers and Celtics. And I've seen some stuff in the Heat. The Heat remind me a lot of that 03-04 era Pistons, where there's no set superstar. Like, there's no guy that's like, oh, this guy is the 25 and 20. Like, I know who this person is. But they work as a unit together. They're super well coached. I know a lot of people like to give Spoelstra shit to say that he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. I think they're well coached. I think they run on a string. I love the defense for them. They've done more to impress me in this playoff run than I think any team has in any of the playoff series.
More so than Denver.
Yeah, because I was one of the few people who actually was a believer in Denver.
Well, that's right. You were.
I didn't think that Denver was that. Yeah. So
and the Heat haven't gotten down in their series like Denver.
Right. They've been ahead. I'm putting my foot down. And granted, that one game that they lost in this, it should have been a sweep. But for the most part, they put their foot down and they're not looking back. And I think that there's a dominance to them and an aggressiveness to them that this series is going to be great. But I do think I think that he's going to do it in 6. I'm excited because we're finally getting a series that I think the defense is going to be a huge effect. I'm being a Piston fan, being that old school 80, even the 04 era Piston defense was first, and I'm excited to see that. I don't think a lot of the playoff series in this bubble stuff have been like 120, 115. I don't know if we're going to get that high night in and night out, and I'm excited to watch that.
Do you see a Ben Wallace on this Heat team?
It's Jimmy. Jimmy is the Ben Wallace for them.
I guess so. Yeah. But the only reason I ask is Ben Wallace wasn't the number one guy on that Pistons squad.
Right.
You know? I
think Billups wound up being
Billups was
the main guy on
yeah.
that team. And I don't know if I guess Gordon right now would be that part, but I see Jimmy does all the intangibles. He does all the dirty work. He does all the things. By position and by what he does, you would say Bam and Ben, but I just don't know if Bam has as much
by position
on what the team does.
Yes. By position, you're absolutely right. But I'm just talking about in terms of that bruising attitude,
I think
grit.
Jimmy is that guy. Like this team goes one way or the other based on Jimmy, and I don't want anybody else on my team right now. From anybody else that's left in the playoffs, I'm a huge Jason Tatum fan. Jimmy Butler right now is the guy that if I'm taking a team into the playoffs, I want that dog on my side.
No, fair enough. And hey, I love what you're saying.
Right now, Duncan Robinson is really hoping he's the Sheed in this scenario. It's like, come on, give it to me.
Oh God. Well, and again, another guy that kind of came into his own over the year because for a while there's like, what's his function really? But the 3-point shooting has been absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
Christian, let's hear it.
I think this is going to be a classic series because what it is such a chess match between these two coaches. And it's interesting to see what Spoelstra is going to do because Budenholzer wouldn't play chess with him. He didn't adjust. It was the polar opposite of what the Raptors-Celtics series was.
Yes,
Those coaches are making crazy amounts of adjustments. Budenholzer just had it in his head like, no, we're the best team. We played like it all year. We get back to doing what we do, and we're going to win. And the alarm bell didn't go off in time. It's like, no, man, they've got you. They've got you scouted. They've got you prepared.
Yeah.
And, Spoelstra and Stevens are going to be making a lot of moves. I'm very interested to see what that looks like. I'm going Celtics in 7. I think this is a 7-game series. I think these teams are crazy evenly matched. You look at the starting lineups. You look at the styles of the teams. You look at the way that they play defense. It's like the Spider-Man meme, pointing at each other, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of that there.
Yeah.
I think that the Tatum-Butler matchup is going to be probably rule the day at the end of the day, right? Because I think whoever wins that matchup wins the series. And if I'm Jason Tatum, I'm sitting down with Jaylen Brown, and I'm just having a conversation about Jaylen Brown's mindset in the Raptors series. Because Jaylen Brown put Pascal Siakam in his back pocket for 7 games. Siakam got nothing. And that was especially when Jaylen Brown was on him. Jaylen Brown made up his mind. This guy made the All-Star game, and I didn't. That's crap. And I'm going to prove to everybody I'm the better player. And he did.
Yeah.
And Jason Tatum is, he's not – I think Terrence is right. He doesn't quite have that dog in him that Smart does, and to a lesser extent Brown does. Jaylen Brown plays hard.
He does.
And Tatum is so skilled. I'm not saying he's lazy. I'm not saying he floats. But if he can just lock in and decide, I'm showing everybody that I'm a superstar and I'm going to do it by beating out Jimmy Butler. If he does it, Celtics win that series. Then there's the question about Hayward. If Hayward can come back and if he can give them anything, that's huge because his playmaking ability is a huge wild card. He's the best passer of their starters.
That's a big part of this. If they get Hayward back, then that murkies this up. And I would go back. And let me say that not only if they get Hayward back, but if he can contribute in not even a great way, just a semi-decent way, I think that does swing it back for me towards Boston because I think he is the X factor for that because right now it's a dead even matchup. But I think that gives them another, he's a former All-Star, that gives them another talented player. If he can just give them 15, if he can do 15, I think that changes the game for Boston.
Right. You against the Heat, especially because the Heat play tons of zone. They're going to throw zone at the Celtics. To beat a zone, you've got to have great, small, sharp passing, right? That gets their timing rocking. You want your best passer on the floor for that. That's what Hayward is, as far as the starters are concerned.
Yeah, and that 2-3 zone. Spoelstra, he rarely starts off with that kind of defense. He loves to go man to man first. You know what I mean? He'll kind of test the waters, see what matchups work here. You know.
Yep.
And then if something's not working his way or he's starting to see that one guy's not holding up his end of the bargain, then he'll switch to that 2-3 zone. I'm with you guys. It's going to be a hell of a series. Terrence, last video we did, I said, is it possible that there's such a thing as a hard-fought 4-game series where like each game is like within like 2 points or 3 points tops? Is there such a thing as that? And you're like, yeah, of course there is. I initially said Celtics in 5, but I believe the Heat deserve more credit than that. So I'm going to go Celtics in 6, which is not much more, but I just believe Boston is the better team. And I feel terrible saying this, but I feel like I should be like going with my team. But at the end of the day, I have to be objective here. I just believe that Boston, they have the ingredients to give Miami fits, and like fits that they might not be able to overcome. On top of that, you said it. Budenholzer did not make adjustments. Stubbornly did not make adjustments. He saw shit that wasn't working and he stuck with it. Stevens is not that guy. If Stevens sees something that's not working, he's not going to sit on his hands for an entire game, let alone an entire series. He's going to switch it up right then and there. He's going to call that timeout and figure out what the hell to do. And if it doesn't work, he'll just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And Spoelstra will do the same thing. But again, it comes down to talent, comes down to matchups. With or without Hayward, the Celtics just have that edge. Now, I will say this, which was I love it when there's mutual respect between fans and between franchises, even though Danny Ainge and Pat Riley have never heard of respect. I was reading a Celtics blog, and they're saying, for any Celtics fans out there who think that this is just going to be Raptors 2.0, you better think again. This is not Raptors 2.0. This Heat team is going to come at you. They're not scared of you. They are not going to go down 2-0. They're not going to be a 0.5 second 3-point shot away from being down 3-0. It's going to be rough riding. And they were breaking down all the great things that the Heat do, and it was just so interesting to see the breakdown of Heat basketball from the opposing side. Again, matchup I want to see: Butler, Tatum, going to be great. I want to see how the Celtics handle Bam, because in the last meeting in the bubble, when they didn't have Butler, Bam was just terrorizing them the whole game.
Yep.
And Tice couldn't really do anything about it. They tried to neutralize him, get him out of there, double team him, triple team him, just wasn't working. So I want to see how they handle Bam. And then real quick, the 2 times before when they played in the regular series, the Heat were coming off back-to-backs. And they didn't have Crowder and Iguodala at the time. And Hero hadn't come into his own. And Dragic was still coming off the bench. So this is a completely new look Heat team that's coming at them.
And the 2 names you just mentioned are kind of why my leaning goes towards the Heat.
Iguodala and
I
Crowder?
think Crowder and Iguodala, even if they don't defensively, the 2 of them alone, that's why they're here. They're here to put extra bodies on Jalen and Jason, and now Gordon if he's around. Like you have veteran players to play defense, and if it comes push to shove, they're also not going to be a detriment to you on offense. Like they're good enough all around players, but you put them out there, and the whole point is like to play playoff, grind it out basketball. Those 2 positions, those 2 players are key spots against this type of team who is basically running almost a three perimeter set with Jalen, Jason, and Gordon.
The key is the 3-point shooting for the Heat. I mean, if Duncan Robinson can stay consistent, because Milwaukee did a pretty good job of neutralizing him for the most part. If Hero can stay consistent, Duncan can stay consistent, and Crowder. I don't remember. I mean, he was on the Celtics, Christian. I mean, I don't remember Crowder ever shooting 3-pointers to at this volume.
Not even close. Never did that for us. Thanks, man.
Yeah, he didn't do it for the Grizzlies. If he did, he'd probably still be there. And he didn't do it for the Cavaliers, because if he did, he'd probably still be there.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for this series. Again, win, lose, I don't care. I first of all, I'm just thrilled that the Heat are back in real contention, because it's been frustrating as a Heat fan to see them, really go out there and compete every night. But unfortunately, the talent was never there to really kind of, either make the playoffs or get it out of the first round. And it's frustrating. So I'm glad to see them really being back to being relevant, and not just being relevant in the eyes of South Florida. So going to be a great series. I am going with Celtics in 6. I want to talk myself into Celtics in 7, maybe even Heat in 7, but I'll feel a little bit better about the series. Game 1's going to tell us everything. in terms of the pace that's going to be set. I think this is going to be one of those series where game one, we're going to see the teams going at each other at their best. They're rested. They're hungry. Yeah, they're rested. They're hungry. And they're ready to go. I mean, there's none of this like, we just finished a game 7 2 nights ago. Now we have to go into this series. We swept the team 12 days ago, so we're a little rusty. Even though the Heat, haven't played for a week, they've been practicing hard. The Celtics, won a couple days ago, so they're both going to be rested. They're going to be hungry. I can't wait to see the series. Game 1 is going to be dynamite tomorrow night. I'm pumped. It's going to be great. Great series. I wish we could talk about the Western Conference Finals, but we can't. So we can't do it yet. You know what, guys? Whatever. I'm not even gonna. We did a video on that already. All right. So yeah, there we go. We got our picks out. Anything else you guys want to say?
I'm glad I'm not either of you. This is going to be great to watch you guys both lose years off of your life. So I'm excited to just sit here and I'm like, man, sorry for both of you guys. It's going to be great.
Yeah, appreciate it. All I got to say is good luck, sir.
Yeah, right back at you, friend. Real quick, you guys will enjoy this story. So, wifey and I were over in La Quinta, and we for a mini honeymoon. We left early because of all the smoke and the fires and all that stuff. Now, we left a day early. That day was Game 5 between Bucks and Heat, and she was like, we should probably leave. We should probably get going. Traffic might be iffy. I said, you're right. We should leave. You're absolutely right. After this Heat game, I cannot be on the road not knowing whether or not they beat the Bucks. And then the thing is, if they didn't beat the Bucks, I'm going to be driving angry. We don't want that. So safety first. Safety first, Heat first, literally the Heat first. So I can't wait, guys. It's going to be great. And again, we'll do some more videos with this. But anyway, it was fun as always. Depending on who comes out of Clippers Nuggets, we'll probably do a video for the Western Conference Finals. And again, guys, thank you for joining me today, and enjoy the series. And I'm Steve Cravens. That's Terrence Tatum. That's Christian Schneider. Thanks for catching us on the High Voltage Show. We'll catch you next time.